Unit 1.
There was once a lad who wanted to be a sailor, but his mother would not let him go to the sea. "Child, what do you know of sailing?" she would say. "You're a farmer's son. You know the turn of the seasons and the smell of the soil, but you do not know the sea." Now the boy, whose name was John, had always obeyed his mother. So he went about his farm work with a heavy heart, but did not again mention the sea. One day, he had been walking behind the plow. He all but ran over a tiny green turtle on a clod of dirty. He picked the turtle up and set it on his head where he knew it would be safe. When he was done with plowing, John plucked the turtle from his head. To his utter surprise, he found that it had turned into a tiny green ferryman that stood upon his palm and bowed. "I thank you for your kindness. Tell me your heart's desire, and I'll grant it to you for saving my life," said the fairy. John bowed back but said nothing. Although his heart yearned to go out to sea, he did not express his wish. The green ferryman could read a heart easily, so he said, "I see you wish to go sailing." John's face answered for him.
Unit 2.
"Since you put me on your head like a hat to keep me safe, I shall give you different kind of cap in return, the kind sailors most desire. A cap full of wind. But there's one warning, no human hand will ever be able to take it off." Then with a blink, the ferryman disappeared, leaving a striped cap behind. John put the cap on his head and ran home to tell his mother. "No good will come of the wine cap," she said. But the lad would have none of her cautions. The very next day, putting on the sailor's cap, he ran off to the sea. On seeing a ship anchored near the shore, he requested the captain to take along. Thus began his first ever sea voyage. Well, the wind cap worked as the fairy had said, but that one condition prevailed. Now that was both bad and good. It was bad because John could neither take his cap off before his captain nor at bedtime. And it was good because neither could he lose the cap nor could it be stolen from him. Since it was wine that sailors called for, and wine that John could supply, he soon became very popular. When he twisted that cap, he could summon the east wind and the west wind. He could also turn it to call both the north as well as the south wind. The captain would therefore never part with his prized sailor and let ashore.
Unit 3.
"Oh, let me go ashore just for one day," he begged the captain when they had sighted land. He promised he would return, but the captain was unmoved. However, John could not stop dreaming of the land. One quiet afternoon, he lay fast asleep and fell to dreaming again. Unknown to him, the ship stood offshore from his old farm. In John's dream, the seasons turned rapidly, and as each turned, so did John in his bed. Consequently, the cap on his head twisted round and about. It called up a squall from the clear sky that hit the ship without a warning. The wind had been whirling about the boat, tearing the sails and snapping the spars. "It's his fault," the sailors cried. They shouted in anger and fear and tried to rip the cap off his head. Well, they were unsuccessful, for it was fairy cap. They pulled it and twisted it, and so the squall became a storm, the mightiest they had ever seen. The captain ordered his men to bring Ho before him. He grabbed him by the tail of his striped cap, twisted him thrice and flung him out to the sea. But the winds called up by the cap spun the ship 3 times around. As John went under the waves, the cap came off him head. Soon the storm stopped, and John swam ashore. The cap followed him. When he got to the land, John picked up the cap and ran home to his mother and farm. Again in the winter, when the snow lay heavy on the fields, he began to dream of the sea. John went to the wardrobe, got out the fairy cap and stared at it for a long moment. Tucking it in his shirt, he ran out to the field. He placed the wind cap under a stone where he knew the ferryman would find it. Then he left again for the seas. For the rest of his life, John spent half the year on a ship and half on the shore till at last he owned his own boat and 100-acre farmland. From then on he came to be known as Captain Turtle, for he was as much at home on the water as he was on the land.